Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the Director. Chargers fans, and I guess general NFL fans, we got an interesting video today because guess what? The offseason rumors are starting to heat up, and I'm starting to see images like this pop up all over Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and you know what? It makes me a little bit nervous, okay? Because there's some big moves in the offseason that not just the Chargers can make, but maybe our closest rivals in the AFC West. Of course, there's other teams like the Patriots and the Colts that could improve as well, making the Chargers' job a little bit more difficult to get into or deep into the postseason. But still, man, we got some trade rumors. We got some off-season acquisitions. I'd just say blockbuster moves that could be made in the 2022 offseason that could greatly impact the Chargers, okay? Because there are moves that our competitors could make this season that are cause for worry if you are a Bolts fan. Now, quick question in the comments for you guys. What potential rival signing in the AFC West would worry you the most? Hintity hint hint. This one is mine. But before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Got my eye on 50,000 subs. Let's get it together, boys. And with that, let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. Blockbuster trades and signings that could impact the Chargers in 2021. We're going to jump right into this video, man. There's a name that's been going around the Chargers fan community about the Chargers potentially signing, getting us all super excited. The number one NFL free agent in 2022. Can you guys take a guess at who that is? DeVante Adams, right? DeVante Adams, wherever he goes, is going to make a huge impact. And of course, we've got connections to DeVante Adams. Super excited. But there are other teams that have connections to DeVante Adams, such as the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, us, the Chargers fans, and even Keenan Allen have been rallying for DeVante to LA. That's the mantra. DeVante to LA, please and thank you. But that's all pretty contingent on what we do with Mike Williams. Mike Williams' contract is definitely kind of up in the air right now. Is he going to be worth the money? Is he asking too much? You know, for an additional $5 million a season, we could get DeVante Adams. There's a lot of complexities in the works when it comes to the Mike Williams situation. However, after making the playoffs, the postseason this year, I think Vegas could emerge as a potential landing spot for DeVante Adams as well. You know what? This division already one of the toughest to make the postseason at this point. Am I wrong? Like, there's so much talent out here. We got, Patrick Mahomes to worry about. We got the Denver defense to worry about. And the Raiders, they've always just kind of been this maybe team to me. In this last season, they proved that they're kind of starting to build towards something. And if they get a player like DeVante Adams, yikes, man, that could be a transformation kind of signing for the Raiders. And that's kind of one other reason why Chargers fans are hoping that it's us that lands DeVante and not anybody else, specifically in the AFC West. The biggest connection that I was able to make to the Raiders, one, they're going to have some cap space to work with, and two, they're on the up and up. Three, you got to add to the fact that Carr and Adams played together in Fresno, okay? There are connections to the Raiders. DeVante Adams, in my opinion, with the way everything could potentially shake out this offseason, right? In my opinion, DeVante Adams more likely than not stays with Aaron Rodgers, whether that be in Green Bay, maybe they decide to play again together there, or maybe it's with a different team, like another one we'll be talking about here in just a second. I think DeVante ends up wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, but there is a real possibility that he could end up on a different team, and the Vegas Raiders have been connected. That's one to watch out for. That's your free agent acquisition for the Raiders. Next up, another wide receiver. This wide receiver free agent class, I guess this year of free agents looks pretty lethal when it comes to the kind of talent we're seeing out there. Free agent Chris Godwin to the Kansas City Chiefs, who he is playing in this photo. It's kind of hard to believe that the Chiefs could bolster their offense any further. They got Tyreek Hill, they got Patrick Mahomes, they got, Travis Kelce. That offense has been a powerhouse for very many years now. But we saw Chris Godwin's previous team in Tampa Bay do something similar to what the Kansas City Chiefs could do. And that's kind of going all out stupid mode when it comes to signing everything and everybody out there to bolster your roster to help your guy make another Super Bowl. That offense with Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Gronkowski, Fournette was absolutely loaded to the brim. And you know what this did? It provided Brady every weapon possible to go out there and win his 7th Super Bowl title. Chris Godwin might be an attractive option to a team like the Kansas City Chiefs because, I guess it's kind of like on the surface you would think, do they even need Chris Godwin? But when you really look into it, the Chiefs, outside of Tyreek Hill, have not really featured another elite wide receiver. What, they got Pringle out there, they got Mecole Hardman, who really just hasn't panned out for him. Godwin would add immediate value in the slot and even outside. And again, just the thought of him pairing up with Patrick Mahomes does send shivers up my spine. So we definitely need to keep an eye on that situation. The Chiefs, because they're in win now mode, feels like they could sign anybody and everybody. And honestly, they've kind of proven that in years past with Orlando Brown, Tyrann Mathieu. The cap is a myth, okay? The Chargers got, $70-80 million, so that's awesome. That's going to help us. But you've seen teams like the Chiefs pay out Patrick Mahomes millions and millions and millions of dollars while also being able to bring in big names. I think Chris Godwin would be a threat for another one for them, okay? Next up, let's talk a little bit about Cameron Jordan. Blockbuster Trades director, just Blockbuster Trades, right? No, man. Some people might not see a Cameron Jordan as like a blockbuster move, but in reality, he would be. Cameron Jordan has had, double-digit sacks in the last 5 out of 7 years or something like that. He's 32 years old. I get it, but he's got plenty left in the tank. The dude's been a monster out there for the Saints, who've been boasting one of the toughest run defenses in the NFL. He's a great pass rusher, as evident to his pressures and his sacks. This man has been amazing. So where does he land? Via trade, where would he land? I'm thinking maybe the Los Angeles Chargers. This is kind of a surprise one. There's going to be a couple of the Chargers, players I really haven't mentioned before in other videos, and Cameron Jordan happens to be one of them. A big reason why this has been kind of a topic of debate on Twitter, I think I maybe have started, the fire on that, is that the Saints are in a bit of a tough situation, right? They lost their franchise quarterback in Drew Brees a couple years ago. They just lost their coach of many years in Peyton. It just feels like there's a lot of things going on right now that are working against the Saints. And you add on top of that, the cherry on top, this team is $71 million against the cap. Oof. There's a possibility they could turn it around, go out there and throw it all down, get themselves a quarterback, sign a competent head coach, but more likely than not, I don't think they're going to be able to pull that off. I think they're in a tough situation, and if you're an NFL team, observing what's going on to the New Orleans Saints, you got to get on the phone and at least inquire about their veteran players because they could be entering into a rebuild phase of their franchise. Cam Jordan would be one of those guys I think who is realistically obtainable by the Chargers. Of course, in my tweet, I mentioned Marshawn Lattimore and Ryan Ramczyk. The Chargers need a right tackle and cornerback. Those guys would be a little bit harder to pull off via trade because how their contracts are structured. But it's never, never say never. If the Chargers can get, a Marshawn Lattimore, more power to them. It would be expensive, though. The Saints are looking to be fairly compensated is what I'm getting to. Marshawn Lattimore would likely be a first-round pick, as were Cameron Jordan. He might be a little bit cheaper, man. He's a little bit older. It would move $14 million off the books of New Orleans Saints. Of course, they would have some, steep dead cap as well. It would be tricky, but he would not be as expensive as a Ramczyk or a Marshawn Lattimore. And you know what? The biggest reason I put his name on the list is because Joey Bosa needs help. Joey Bosa, of which I'm wearing right now, needs some help on that line. The Chargers are committing, $100 million to that man. and we're just watching him get double and triple teamed every single game. You add a man like Cameron Jordan into the mix, all of a sudden you cannot be double and triple teaming Joey Bosa. And if you do, guess who's on the other side screaming at your quarterback? Chargers are must win right now. This kind of trade intrigues me, and I think it's realistic, and I think it's something the Chargers go after. And Cameron Jordan would be a blockbuster trade. Next up, the big one, Aaron Rodgers. You guys knew this was coming. Okay, this would spell doomsday for the rest of the AFC West, even for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chargers are in a really good spot right now. We got a quarterback. We got a lot of young studs everywhere. But you know what, dude? Aaron Rodgers, via trade to the Denver Broncos, like you saw at the top of the episode here, this would be problematic, definitely problematic. And you know what? This rumor has been going on for quite a few years now, right? Is Aaron Rodgers staying? Is he going? Is he moving on? I think it may come to fruition very soon. I think, there's been a lot of smoke. I'm starting to get the feeling that maybe this is the year that he decides to move on. It's still unknown, but if he does move on, man, Denver is definitely among the top of the list in potential landing spots for Aaron Rodgers. Denver, they boast an elite defense. They've always been pretty solid, at least for the past decade or so. And they got a flurry of weapons, too, to lure in an Aaron Rodgers, like Jerry Jeudy, Sutton, Javonte Williams. They even got that tight end out there, and Noah Fant. It's a pretty nice offense minus the quarterback position. I'll say it. That team looks pretty complete to me outside of quarterback. And if you get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, that is problematic for Chargers fans. Now, I guess on the opposite side of the spectrum, if you're a Denver fan, Rodgers' price would be massive. We're talking multiple first-round picks, maybe trading some of your young players. They would need to pay up. But if he lands in Denver, they are an immediate Super Bowl threat, and one of the Chargers will have to get through and go through in order to make the postseason. You're talking Rodgers, you're talking Mahomes, you're talking Herbert. If you're Derek Carr out there, you're probably shivering a little bit. That entire quarterback, whatever, roster in the AFC West is absolutely ridiculous. If you add Aaron Rodgers to the mix, it gets even more ridiculous. So Aaron Rodgers to the Denver Broncos, big yikes. Next up, free agent Tyron Armstead to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, but Director, they just traded all of this, capital for Orlando Brown in 2021. Why did they need to go out there and get another left tackle? Well, I'm not quite sure how the Orlando Brown experiment went for the Chiefs. It seems to be doing fine. They're in the postseason. They found a solid left tackle in Orlando Brown. But I've been hearing rumors that Brown might be moving on once again. I don't know if it has something to do with the Chiefs not being happy with them. I have to assume they are. Or if Orlando Brown wants more money. But you know what the Chiefs do want for certain? They want to maintain that solid protection they saw for Patrick Mahomes in 2021. And that's where you enter a guy like Tyron Armstead, which in my opinion, this is one of the bigger free agents out there via offensive line in a while. He's very, very good. But this man needs to stay healthy. Still, you got to if your rival's going to go out there and sign a big name like Tyron Armstead, you got to assume he's going to be healthy and prepare for it, okay? Armstead would be an issue for Los Angeles, would be an issue for Vegas, would be an issue for Denver, because you got to make sure you're getting some pressure, right? And he's one of the best out there. Bosa, if they get Tyron Armstead, Bosa most certainly would need help. He would be pricey, but again, this is just kind of one of those moves that you think like the Chiefs could never pull it off, and lo and behold, he ends up on the roster. So Tyron Armstead, probably the biggest offensive lineman in free agency this season. I could see him maybe going to the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, guys, here's another big one. One that I think kind of gained some steam last season, but we haven't really heard much about it since then. It's Russell Wilson. Okay, Russell Wilson. There's been talk about him being on the move for a while, right? He had some sort of cryptic farewell at the close of their 2021 season. It kind of added to the flames of those rumors. There have been connections, and I think the most frequent connection I've noticed when it comes to Russell Wilson has been the Chicago Bears. That would be a great move for them. They need a quarterback, I think a lot like the Denver Broncos. They got pieces everywhere, more specifically a defense. They'd have to build a little bit on offense, but Russell would be a heck of a start. The other connection I'm starting to notice a lot too, since last year, has been the Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders are pretty touchy about the subject, okay? A lot of them, seem to think that Derek Carr is their guy. He's going to take him to the promised land. And that might be true. I don't know. I just see Derek Carr as a very serviceable quarterback. Maybe in the same light as like a Kirk Cousins with the Minnesota Vikings. Like, yeah, Cousins is all right. He's got a good team around him. But is he really that guy that's going to take him to the Super Bowl? Probably not. And I think deep down, Raiders fans would agree with me. Derek Carr is probably not going to take you the distance, right? But you add a guy like Russell Wilson, things do start getting a little bit sketchy if you're an AFC West rival, because Wilson is undoubtedly an upgrade over Derek Carr. I know he saw kind of a rocky season this year, but it's Russell Wilson that we're talking about, okay? Vegas, they would likely have to forfeit, multiple high-round picks for Russell Wilson, at least 2 first-rounders, in my opinion. I think that's kind of where I was seeing last season when the trade rumor was kind of, mulling in that direction. But this would be the cause for concern with an already loaded AFC West quarterback, roster. It's absolutely insane. Russell Wilson, I don't know if I fear him as much as Aaron Rodgers to the Broncos, because the Broncos just have the perfect team built around Rodgers if he were to go there. But Russell Wilson, you bet your butt, if you're a Chargers fan, if you're a Broncos fan, whatever, you got to worry if he's a Vegas Raider sooner than later. So I don't know, man. And there might even be a trade that, makes sense in the terms of Russell to Vegas and then Carr to Seattle with the kind of team that Seattle's working with right now. I don't know. Just definitely one to monitor right there, okay? Next up, free agent Chandler Jones to the Denver Broncos. Okay, so this is a free agent, honestly, that I would be super stoked if the Chargers picked up. Again, we've been talking about we need help for Bosa. But again, just because we want something and we're focused on something for our team doesn't mean there isn't 31 other teams out there focused on improving themselves as well, not looking at Chandler Jones and these other guys we've been mentioning. Chandler Jones to the Denver Broncos, again, would be problematic. Chargers fans know better than anybody. Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, that defense has been a monster for a long time. That pass rush has definitely been one that haunts Phillip Rivers' dreams. Von Miller was a big part of that last season. He made his departure from the Denver Broncos to the Los Angeles Rams. Von could maybe even come back this season to the Broncos. You never know. But I think maybe the separation's too much. They're looking for a different face. They want to add another elite pass rusher. It could end up being Chandler Jones. Now, Jones is still a huge threat. I know he's a little bit older, but the man logged, 5 sacks in week 1 of 2021. The dude is still a monster, man, and he would absolutely fit just so snug into that Denver defensive scheme. You match him up with Bradley. Again, this is another nightmare scenario for your other AFC West teams. I do not want to have to try and stop Chandler Jones, and that's definitely a place that I think that he would fit. So keep an eye out for that. Chandler Jones to the Denver Broncos. We do not want to see that. Next up, this is a really big one, Chargers fans specifically. Another Chargers move that could get you excited. One that I might do a whole separate video on later, but it's a big move that the Chargers could definitely pull off. Trade Calvin Ridley to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, we talked a little bit about Mike Williams' contract situation. We did. He's slated to be a free agent. His situation is complex. It's complicated. If the Chargers do elect to move on from Mike Williams, which honestly, at this point, I'm thinking they probably shouldn't, Calvin Ridley would add a huge dynamic to the offense. Okay, this would be one of the guys you definitely want to target to pair up with Justin Herbert, because you know what this guy boasts? This guy boasts speed. One of the faster receivers in the NFL. I don't know, man. Ridley, this dude would be such a beast in the Los Angeles system. Now, there was one thing of concern with Calvin Ridley in my eyes, and it's that he stepped away from football like mid-season in 2021 for personal reasons. I think psychological reasons, if I'm being quite honest. He needed to, get some self-healing. And it is a little bit concerning as to why he did that. I hope he's doing okay as an individual, as a human being, but that is something to monitor. But the biggest thing with Calvin Ridley at this point, it's kind of evident that he doesn't want to be an Atlanta Falcon anymore. Okay, I would be shocked if he's not traded this offseason. And if you have a player that's maybe unhappy in their situation, you got to be on the phone and kind of inquiring as to what the price is going to be. Now, with a situation like Calvin Ridley where the player wants out, that undoubtedly has some sort of effect on the asking price that the team can maybe shoot for. The Atlanta Falcons, if you told me last season that they were going to move on from Calvin Ridley, I'd say, that's easily a first-round pick. At this point, with him wanting out and stepping away from football this last year, honestly, I think they would be lucky to get maybe a second-round pick and some change, okay? And that's kind of where I'm going to stick with that. But you're getting a first-round talent at a discount. And I think that's definitely something the Chargers should look into. Can you imagine Justin Herbert, one of the best arms in the NFL, adding a receiver like Calvin Ridley would be absolutely huge. When talking about stretching the field, backing off the defense, I don't know if it gets much better than Calvin Ridley in the NFL right now. And cherry on top for you Chargers fans, there might be a way that we live in a world where the Chargers could trade for Calvin Ridley as well as keeping Mike Williams. I'm going to do a separate video on this a little bit later, but just know that scenario does exist, and it's something that Chargers fans and the Chargers organization needs to consider. All right, next up, trade Deshaun Watson to the Denver Broncos. I know, guys, it's been a year. You know, NFL fans, we all have short memories. Deshaun Watson, who's this guy? Deshaun Watson, before all that legal jarble and all that, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. One that maybe has been forgotten about. But you know what? If he steps back into the limelight, if he steps back into the NFL with, let's say, a clean, slate, a clean legal slate, the Denver Broncos have already been connected to Deshaun Watson in that whole situation, okay? Of course, we don't have any idea of what his legal situation might be right now. I mean, if he did it, there's a nice ditch we can all throw him in together. If he didn't, though, and he comes back and it turns out, he's eligible to play again, Denver needs to be one of those teams that, again, we have to watch out for. Denver's been, connected to a couple of really talented quarterbacks. And Deshaun Watson, depending on if he, pops up at any point in the offseason, is one we have to monitor as well. Because, again, just throwing him into a team with a solid defense and all the weapons in the world, Deshaun could immediately, jump right back into the top 10, top 5 quarterback conversation with a team like Denver. Again, Denver would likely have to, trade, some pretty good draft capital for this guy, a pair of first rounders at least, but this would be a big move. And it's one that still exists out there. I know a lot of us maybe forgot it, myself included, but it still does exist out there. And lastly, I'm going to throw in a bonus player for you Chargers fans, because this is Chargers channel, right? There's more trade scenarios coming down, the pipeline. And as far as rumors are concerned, there is one more that actually just popped up recently that I do want to talk about you guys with. Trade Marcus Peters to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this one is interesting. Kind of popped up out of nowhere, right? The Chargers defense is going to have some holes in 2022 that they need to address. I think cornerback is one of those screaming in my face. Now, unlike other positions, it's kind of rare that you find a cornerback that really hits on year one out of the draft. Every once in a while, you're going to get an Asante Samuel Jr. That's awesome. Chargers won big time right there. But then every, other, corner that you're going to draft is going to look like a Jeff Okudah from the Detroit Lions. Taken top 5, top 3, and he didn't pan out too well for that team. If I'm the Chargers, I want a guy that I can trust to step onto the field right now and solve that cornerback position situation. The Marcus Peters would add immediate value to position and need for the Chargers is probably the biggest thing I'm trying to get at, but he does come with some risk. He tore his ACL in 2021, missed the entire season. Yikes. If you're a Chargers fan, we do not like the history of injured players. As soon as they come to the Chargers, they get banged up again. It's the Brian Bulaga story all over again, right? In this situation, though, with the Chargers cornerback position being the way it is, and other trades like maybe a Marshawn Lattimore being maybe a little bit too expensive for the Bolts, I think Marcus Peters makes fantastic sense as far as taking a gamble on a player, hoping that they can stay healthy and come back, and play a full season. He's got connections to the team. You guys remember where he played before the Baltimore Ravens? The Los Angeles Rams. And who was part of the Los Angeles Rams organization just a couple seasons ago? Brandon Staley, our head coach. Brandon Staley had to have loved a Marcus Peters on his team. This guy was absolutely fantastic. And I do think it's worth the gamble, in my opinion. Why would the Ravens want to move on from one of the better cornerbacks in the league, might you ask? Well, again, it's because he got hurt. Maybe there's some contract, dispute going on. Not dispute, but I would say he's, $10 million, $15 million against the cap. He wouldn't have a really big dead cap. And as well, I think the biggest thing I have to mention is that the Baltimore Ravens were fine, right? After he got injured, the Baltimore Ravens still had an awesome defense. They got another cornerback coming back really soon, too. Is it Jimmy Smith? I don't remember the name of the other guy, but very, very elite. I think if I'm the Baltimore Ravens trying to get some draft capital, trying to move some money off the books, Marcus Peters got to be one of those guys that you're considering. And with the Los Angeles Chargers having connections to him via Brandon Staley, having a hole at cornerback, I think it's a risk worth taking, okay? And if you guys need any more convincing, I think we could get a Marcus Peters for as little as like a third-round pick because of his injury history, and he only carries a $10 million cap hit with him if the Chargers were to acquire him. So I think that would be a fantastic add for the Chargers. Bottom line here, dudes, is it's going to be a crazy offseason. It really is. With so many elite quarterbacks on the move, we need to watch out for a team like the Broncos coming out of nowhere as a legitimate contender. It's going to get sketchy out here, okay? As well, the Chiefs are another guy. Like every single season, I keep my eye on the Chiefs because they're not afraid of making big moves, okay? The NFL cap myth, or the NFL cap is a myth. They've been able to maneuver whoever they want onto the roster because they are in contention. So the Chargers, in my opinion, they need to recognize the situation that they're in right now, right, with Justin Herbert, all these young studs, just on the brink of making the playoffs this season. We got weapons. We got young stars. It's time we adopt the same mentality, okay? Take some risks out there. I think among all of these players on here, my favorite that I mentioned for the Chargers was either, Marcus Peters, which would be very cheap. He'd be an awesome addition to the team, or even like a Marcus Davenport, a Cameron Jordan. I think those would be solid moves. So in the comment section below, let me know what some of your favorite scenarios I put forward for the Chargers are, as well as which one of these scenarios worries you the most as far as, big players going to an AFC West rival. So anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit us up with a like and sub on your way out if you did enjoy this content. This has been The Director. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty.